everybody. It's Sophie and Marco here, and we're going to talk about episode 2 of The Alienist. So, how do you like it so far? And if you saw it, were you a little put off by the sex scenes? We actually wondered because nothing happened for a long time until almost at the very end, for 45 seconds or so. Again,
and they're like, oh, surprise!
The illustrator again was having sex.
No, that was one of the brothers. I mean, what?
No, I thought it was the illustrator. I thought it was John Moore again.
It was one of the brothers, I think.
I don't think so.
I think so.
I don't think so.
He met a girl at this socialist meeting. Socialist Labor Party meeting. You saw it. He looked at this girl, and then she looked over at him, and it was like, who's she? And I guess they're attracted, and they went, and yeah.
Okay, well, I guess you'll have to find out for yourself because we're in disagreement about who that was. I think it was the John Moore, the illustrator, but just a forewarning. So in case anybody has an objection to that, but it's like 45 seconds.
It's worse than anything. It's worse than anything I've ever seen on Californication. Even though the show has nothing to do with sex, it's supposed to do with a serial killer and the old times. It's not supposed to be about a sex addict writer. So.
No, actually, illustrator is not a writer. So anyway. The episode is episode 2, and it's called A Fruitful Partnership, which is self-explanatory after you watch the episode. We're well on our way to investigating the death of Giorgio Santarelli, a boy who may have been a transgender prostitute. I don't know for sure if he was a transgender, but he was a prostitute boy dressed up in a dress. Dr. Kreitzler, who I'll refer to sometimes as Dr. K, visits an undertaker wanting to know if any of the murder victims he has come across over the months, days, weeks, whatever, have been boys with their tongues cut out. And the man replied with some snide remark about science and added later that if Dr. K was talking about the boy whore that was murdered just recently, that he got what was coming to him. So now you can see the attitudes, the negative attitudes and darkness, dark images and dirt and trash and rats and meanness, and it's all around, and constantly painting a picture of the way things looked and contrasted for people who had money and people who didn't. Meanwhile, the bad, corrupt Irish cops pay a visit to the Santarelli family to tell them not to talk to anyone about their boy, the one who was murdered. They beat up the father so badly that one of the cops' hands got bloody, and the family had to ask someone to get a doctor. Back at the station, after learning that the commissioner is out, the cops who just beat up Mr. Santarelli tell Miss Howard there's no need for further investigation into the Santarelli case. And the meanest one, I don't know what his name is, wipes an eyelash off Miss Howard's face with his bloodied hands. The act of wiping the eyelash off her face sends a multitude of ugly messages toward Miss Howard. Later, she goes to Mr. Moore's place, the illustrator, to ask him to accompany her to the Santarellis to question the family. He replies that she's just a typewriter and not even a secretary, but they go anyway. Miss Howard and Mr. Moore discovered that the cops threatened them. And the older brother, the only one who speaks English because they're Italian, says that Giorgio was not like the other boys who were murdered. Two important facts here. Giorgio was unlike the other boys.
So maybe the other boys were prostitutes and he wasn't?
I don't know. And the other fact is there are more victims. The other part about, like Marco just asked about, Giorgio not being like the others was not made clear. Back at the station, Miss Howard looks in the file room for certain files and notices some are missing. The room is a mess and disorganized. She lies to the policeman in charge.
And there's a beer bottle on his desk.
Oh, yeah. And tells him that she is looking for files for the commissioner. Later, she sneaks, and we're not totally positive about this, into the commissioner's desk. She finds a key because it's locked. And the missing files, or a bunch of files, are in the top drawer of the desk, and there are the other boys who were murdered. At least 2 other cases. An African-American boy and another kid named Aaron Morton. She refers to the African-American kid as, quote, that Negro. She takes the files and shows them to Mr. Moore and Dr. Kreitzler. Later, Mr. Moore and Dr. Kreitzler go to the opera and see the commissioner there. And J.P. Morgan, the famous banker, financier, philanthropist, and art collector.
He's a piece of crap.
Well, he's very famous, and he's probably the richest man in New York City at that time. It's a beautiful opera, and men and women are dressed in their finest clothing. This scene is in contrast to the apartment house where Miss Howard and Mr. Moore interviewed the Santarelli family. A dirty building with dripping water, dark and foreboding hallways. Even an infant is all alone out in the hallway and crying. Miss Howard actually picked up the baby, and the door opened, and a man was yelling in a foreign language, and the woman took the baby back into the apartment. The sounds of different languages filled the hallways, and some people were yelling. Anyway, back at the opera, after it concludes, Dr. Kreitzler meets up with the commissioner and asks him about conducting a parallel investigation into the Santarelli murder because there have been other, probably similar murders. Also, Dr. K requests that Miss Howard be their department liaison. No one would suspect she was actually helping them. Okay, Marco, would you like to tell anything about what happens? Because several other things happen.
Can you give me a hint?
Well, would you like to talk about... The title of the episode is A Fruitful Partnership. And all of the people, the illustrator, John Moore, the Dr. Kreitzler, Sarah Howard, and the 2 forensic experts, the boys, they're the Jewish boys, and I have to look up their name again because they're not in it very often. Marcus and Lucius Isaac.
They don't mention their names enough.
No.
That's one problem I have with the show, is I'm not really familiar with their names. And all these other shows that I've seen, it's clear what their names are. So anyways...
Well, they meet up at this...
They're all having dinner together
in a private room. In a very fancy restaurant. Everybody's...
Arguably the best scene of the episode.
Everybody's all dressed up in this white tablecloths and lots of dishes. And what happens at this meeting with all these people?
They go over fingerprinting.
Which is a brand new science. The twins explained that they are twins, but they're fraternal twins, so they don't look exactly alike. And that they made a print of their fingerprints, and they each, even though they're twins, they're not alike. And they concluded that everybody has their own unique fingerprints. And the reason why they even bring it up, it's a new science. And it's a way of identifying possibly the murderer of Giorgio. And because apparently there's some kind of pocket watch that was found near the body that has a print on it. So, and then what else did they bring to the meeting?
You can give the rest away.
Oh, for heaven's sakes, Marco. What else did they bring to the meeting?
A murder weapon?
A possible murder weapon called an Arkansas toothpick. A really long special knife that could have been used to gouge the eyes out. Because if I don't know if you remember, in the first episode, they said that birds had pecked out the little boy's eyes, but the effect was they were cut out like almost surgically with a special
Well, they did
knife.
something. They went to a meat market and they went up to I think it was a camel head or a goat head or something, and they used the murder weapon that they had to pluck out the head, the eyes,
Yeah.
and it worked. And so they concluded that was the murder weapon, or one of the weapons, whatever.
So that's another new way of investigating a crime.
And they all touched the weapon. They handed it around the table, and it was like, is one of them gonna use it on all the rest? Like, they're all like, ooh, this weapon might have been used, or it was just kind of, I like that moment. They all touched the weapon.
Well, they also showed the fingerprints, how they were different. And it was some kind of weird little miniature stereoscope thing. I can't even describe properly. Do you want to say anything else about the rest of the episode, or?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
There's hinting at a romance between Luke Evans and Dakota Fanning.
Well, apparently they've known each other since they were young, and Dr. Kreitzler asked him about her before they asked, this was before they asked the commissioner, I think, to see if she would be the liaison, because he can tell she's interested in the case. She's helping him out by bringing him files, breaking into people's desks and getting the files and showing them, and then they went to the Santarelli's house, and so he can tell there's an interest on her part. But so he wants to find out more about her, and he discovers that she's an orphan. Her mother died when she was young, and her father died sometime thereafter.
And so I guess they're going to be focusing. They talked also about Luke Evans. I think it's my favorite line of the show so far, where he's like, "What's my purpose in all this?" And then
this is the illustrator.
And then Daniel's like, "Maybe your purpose has already been fulfilled." And so what I think is that his only purpose is to be Dakota Fanning's love interest. And I think that we should make a bet on which episode they have their sex scene together
in. Yeah, because she's, even though she's a lady of the upper class, she lives in a nice place, she has a maid, she wears beautiful clothing, because she probably inherited all this money from her family. They're both dead, and she's the only surviving person. And I don't know what I was going to say, but anyway, she is also kind of she wants to be a police investigator, obviously, so she wants to be more than just a rich lady who has nothing better to do than sit around and look beautiful. And she also smoked cigarettes. They showed her doing that as kind of like an act of rebellion. So we'll see if what Marco says is true. So something really big happens near the end. I don't think we'll talk about, because really you should watch that, and it's very significant and awful.
Weird.
But it's not a murder. There's nothing about a murder. There's no more murders, at least that we see during this episode. It's mainly further investigation and the investigative techniques and the fact that all these people, Miss Howard, the two brothers who are forensic scientists in the Pioneer part. I mean, they've never had anything like this at a police department. The doctor, or the alienist, and the illustrator. They're gathering together, and the fact they're going to work on this case as a team. And but then something really big happens at the end, and we'll just save that for you to figure out.
The show's really dark.
It's very dark.
I mean, we've seen the show Hannibal, and it's a good show, the first and second season at least. And one of the things about it that's cool is that it's not like the show where it's really overdoing all the darkness and the misery. Like in that show, it's colorful, it's more beautiful, and I mean even they had a smaller production value, but this one, I mean, had like $6.5 million per episode. But Hannibal still looks better, and that show, even though it had misery in it, it wasn't like in this show where there's just not a lot of light anywhere.
No.
I guess there might be light at the end because they know what happened or something. Like there's another thing I'm wondering is, are they going to have more than one season with different cases? Because it seems like this is such a problematic world that you really can't solve all the problems in just 10 episodes. Like in Hell on Wheels, they couldn't have done just a one season thing. That being said, I don't know if there's a second book or if there are any more cases that they could even cover.
Well, somebody on Facebook did bring up the fact that there is another book, but I don't know.
Oh,
I've
really?
never read it. I haven't seen it. I don't know what the name of it is or anything. I would have to look. So that could be. I haven't heard anything though, but that would be interesting, and how they could improve things. But it is. I just think they are trying to paint the background of what it was like there, and it is interesting because I mean, if you go out in the country, we've been watching Hell on Wheels, some old season. You go out west, it's the country. The sun is shining. Yes, there's poverty. People are struggling. People get sick. People get killed. But it's bright and sunny, and there's plants and trees and flowers. And then you're back in this city of this alienist, and it's dark and dirty. There's tons of people. It's overcrowded. There's lots of immigrants who recently moved to the country. They don't speak English, and they're confused. They don't get any help. They've got corrupt cops, and we already brought up all this, the sexism and the classism and all these different things all combined into this.
I actually think that
misery.
The West in that show is scarier than the city in this show.
Well, all the people that were going west came from the city for a better life, or to have land of their own, manifest destiny, which was really belonged to the Indians, but that's a whole nother story and a whole nother show. But anyway, they're constantly painting contrast too. Like I said, the opera, everybody's beautiful, and it's a beautiful music with live music and costumes. And then the restaurant where they go eat, they get their own room. It's gigantic, and there's tablecloths. They serve them, I don't know, a 10-course meal or a 20-course meal, and they bring in each course, and everybody's got the silver thing lid over their plate, and they have all these waiters.
I think there needs to be more of a vision on the show.
More what?
More of a vision, because as a show, all I see is somebody who took the book and put the book on screen. I don't really see like somebody who's inspired and who tried to try to make it a certain way, make it interesting. I just see this is the book. Which is funny because then I criticize the Glass Castle for somebody taking the book and being inspired by the dad and just making the movie all about the dad. There needs to be more of a balance.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll get better, because I criticized Dakota Fanning in the last episode, and she got slightly less wooden in this episode, and Luke Evans got worse. Because they were having this cool conversation at the dinner table, and Luke Evans is just sitting there like enjoying the rich people food and probably thinking about what he wants to draw when he gets home after he goes and
sees the prostitute.
Yes, sees another prostitute.
I don't know. I still can't figure out the purpose of these sex scenes. There's only this one, very brief. Like I said, it was under 60 seconds. I don't know if that means, because of course it depends on who it is. Marco thinks it's one of the forensic scientist twins. I think it was the illustrator again. And if it's the illustrator again, I don't know why they keep doing this. It's either he's a sex addict or he's not the killer. Okay, I know that. Or he doesn't want to have a real relationship because he's afraid to for some reason. We don't know why. I don't know. I've read the book, but I don't remember anything about that at all. And it's different. This is a visual thing.
I thought that he was married.
No, I don't think so.
Because in the first episode, after they had sex twice, she handed him a ring. And so I was thinking she handed him the wedding ring.
Yeah, I remember that, but I don't think so. But I don't know for sure. So anyway, since we're not going to tell you what happens, that there's a big scene at the end. It's very important. We'll tell you that there's some little extras for the Alienist. There's like interviews with the different actors in the show, and one of them is with Dakota Fanning, and she talks about, and they do show this in the TV show. She puts on a corset, and it's very constraining, and it's like you can see the marks on her skin of the lines of the corset, and it just like embeds into your skin, and it's and it's tight. And she talks about how uncomfortable it is, and she uses it as a symbol of how women are constrained from furthering themselves in this environment where if you're a quote proper woman, of wealth, because only they can be proper, I guess, according to what the norms are, which is ridiculous, but that they're just supposed to sit around and be pretty and not do anything worthwhile, except maybe be a wife and mother. And then everybody else, the lower classes, either they're going to be prostitutes or they're going to be maids or servants or cooks or whatever. I don't know, or cleaning people, whatever.
Or cowboys.
Yeah, right. And anyway, so Marco argued that was just silly because he bet that the corset was probably invented by a woman. So he looked it up, and I looked it up too, and yes, that could be. Of course, I'll just read what I found. A corset, if you don't know what that is, which it's possible that some people don't, it's a garment that's worn to hold and train the torso into a desired shape. Traditionally, a smaller waist and a larger bottom. Both men and women wore them, mainly women though. For almost 350 years, a woman's primary means of support was from wearing a corset. And in history, they cite that Catherine de' Medici, who was wife of King Henry II of France, enforced a ban on thick waist at the court attendants during the 1550s, and that's how corsets may have come about in a big way. But there's been evidence that they were in history before, but this was when they started to come into fashion big time. So,
and the official inventor was?
Well, Catherine, according to this, it was for the big time wearing of them as Catherine de' Medici.
Well, I looked it up and it said a woman named Roxy something Kaplan, and she even wrote a book called something about food and health. I thought that she would look this up. She wrote a book called Food and Health, and it's really kind of funny and contradictory to her inventing corsets, which promote negative things. And I don't know, I just think that it was a little over the top. I think they were trying a little bit too hard, just like with everything else, to hammer in messages about how women were treated back then, when all they had to do was do what they were already doing. They didn't have to do that corset stuff.
Because I don't believe that.
It's a little contradictory since a woman invented it, and I mean that's a little hypocritical.
Yes, Marco just doesn't understand, but he does have a point in a way. But it's just like I was part of a research team who went to Africa a million years ago, and I wore long pants, and one of the villagers came up to me and said, "Women are not supposed to wear pants. Are you trying to be a man?" And so I like, oh my God. And I said no, and I just walked away, but it was really weird. So I could understand, after experiencing that myself, what it would be like not to dress the way everyone expected you to be dressed during this time. And I just think they're just painting these pictures. It's a visual picture of what it's like. It's not just that. This is a murder of a serial killer who is killing off children, whether they're doing prostituting or not. He's killing children. And the Dr. Kreitzler mentions in the episode before this one that he had clients. He had a brother and a sister, and the brother liked to wear his sister's clothes. There's nothing wrong with the sister, but they both end up getting murdered. They disappear, and then they're found murdered. And the sister they don't cut her all up or anything, and her eyes don't get gouged out, but she does get murdered. She's an innocent victim then of them, whoever it is, trying to punish the boy victim for liking to wear girls' clothes. So any kid could get killed. The murderer doesn't. Who is this murderer? Was it somebody who personally knows all these people?
Well, we'll find it
yeah,
out.
we will. So there's and it's also another thing. This is a pioneering of forensic science, of fingerprinting, of profiling, of like how a body is, what the bones and the skin, the knife marks, the bone and everything, all of it is brand new. It's never been done before. They don't even keep good files. They don't write anything down they haven't been writing things down about the murder, any details about, and also like the fingerprinting and taking pictures. He has the illustrator go and draw a picture of how he sees the body. they don't take pictures of the crime scene. I mean, all this stuff, it's all brand new. So that's interesting. So
Well, there's something that you don't do when you're painting a picture, and that is you don't overuse black because it's easy to smudge, and it can sometimes just be really dull, and this show's using too much black.
yeah, it is
And
very dark all the time. In fact, it's like it's at night
I would
all
rate
the
this
time.
episode a B plus because I think it was better than last episode. Definitely, last episode was just kind of, and so I want to also make a bet that by episode 6, so I think episode 5, that Dakota Fanning and Luke Evans are going to have a sex scene together. And I want you to bet now on when that's going to happen. Because we all know it's coming.
I don't know. I don't know.
Make a bet.
I have no idea.
Make a guess.
I don't think so.
I do.
Well, you're probably more realistic about things like that than I am.
The writer probably was like, okay, how do I make an excuse to have a sex scene with all these different actresses I've seen? That's what he probably did. And so what would you rate the episode at least?
Oh, I give it a B.
Not a B plus?
Oh, I just give it a B.
Oh.
Well, I just I don't know. I don't like doing that. I mean, if I hated it, I don't mind giving it an F. And if I really, really, really liked it, it was just so amazing, I'd want to watch it about 10 times, I'd probably give it an A. So I am going to watch it again, probably at least one more time, because last time I didn't pick up the fact that, and I had to watch it again, that the commissioner and the illustrator and Dr. Kreitzer know each other because they all went to Harvard together. I didn't pick that up till I watched it again. So, sorry. I don't know if I mentioned it when we did the review last time, but I had to watch it again to find that out. So.
Well, if you guys know something, like a spoiler, don't give it away in the comments. Like, if there's a purpose to all this stuff that they're doing, setting up, don't give it away. I haven't read the book. I don't want to know what happens or anything.
Well, I've read the book, but I don't remember all the details. And I have the book here, and I can look it up. And I did look at, I didn't hear the Jewish boys. And I say that because they call themselves the Jewish twins. They call themselves that. I didn't hear their names very well. It's very long, and I didn't hear it. And so I looked that up, and I wanted to see how much the show followed the book. And it's pretty close. At least it was so far. And it covers a lot of ground during the show.
So,
from the book.
That's it.
That's it. And be listening to our
Relationship
review.
month.
Yeah, we have February is relationship month, not just romantic relationships. Because our first movie that we're going to review is going to be Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein.
So on Thursday we're gonna watch and review Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, and then probably on the 4th we're gonna watch Heathers and review that.
And also I have to finish my top 36 movies that I watched in 2017 that were old movies.
Oh yeah.
Which are not movies that are made in 2017, but movies made in any other year other than 2017. So, be looking for our next week. I hope you enjoy watching The Alienist. Goodbye. See you soon.
Bye.